Hi, preschool. Miss Holokai here. It's time for a story, a couple stories actually. And instead of our open shut them, I was thinking we could do a new finger play. Uh, this one's called Here Comes a Bunny. So I'm going to show you how to do it first, and then we could do it together, okay? So you need a bunny, and he's going to go hippity hop like this. And then his ears are floppy, so you're going to go like this. And then bunnies, they sniff the air in case there are any predators around, any animals that want to eat them. So they go, and then they go hide in their hole like that. So here's how it goes. It goes like this. Here comes a bunny, hippity hop, with his ears so funny, flippity flop. When he senses danger, when in danger, he sniffy sniffs and hides in his hole, jiffy jiff. So let me do it again. Here comes a bunny, hippity hop, with his ears so funny, flippity flop. When in danger, he sniffy sniffs and hides in his hole, jiffy jiff. I like that one. So our first story is a continuation of our lesson from yesterday, Can It Float? I heard back from several families that you did the sink or float experiment. That was really cool. And that you got most of the answers right. You predicted correctly. So this one is called Can It Float by Bailey Carroll. She wrote the words, and did she draw pictures? No, she took photographs, right? And is that a real? Yeah, that is. I thought that they blew that up just to be funny, but it looks like it's real. It's a real floating balloon, and there's a boat behind it. Whoa. Oh, goodness. Sorry about that. Okay. A leaf can float on water. And why do things float again? Because they're light. Heavy things sink, right? The ice can float on water. Whoa. It's like pieces of a glacier. Giant piece of ice. A boat can float on water. And the flower can float on water. A ball can float on water. Beach ball. I'm so ready for summer. So we could go in the pool. The swan can float on water. It's a very pretty bird. Can the frog float on water? Yes, it can. The end. So, one of my favorite books is Harold and the Purple Crayon, and I've read this story to you probably at the beginning of the year. I don't know if you remember. But I have the whole series. There are 4 Harold and the Purple Crayon books, and I'm going to read you one that I've never read to you before. It's called Harold's Fairytale. And this is Harold, and he always takes his purple crayon with him, and he creates an imaginary world with his purple crayon. And the author, the person who wrote the words, and the illustrator, the guy who drew the pictures, his name is Crockett Johnson. Okay. Here we go. Harold's Fairytale. Look, that sign says, to the Enchanted Garden. One evening, Harold got out of bed, took his purple crayon and the moon along, and went for a walk in an enchanted garden. There's the moon up there. Nothing grew in it. If he hadn't known it was an enchanted garden, Harold scarcely would have called it a garden at all. To find out what the trouble was, Harold decided to ask the king. So if it's a garden, there should be lots of flowers and trees and grass, and there's nothing. So he's going to go ask the king, hey, what's up with that? Kings live in large castles. Harold had to make sure the castle was big enough to be the king's. He didn't want to waste time talking to any princes or earls or dukes. Princes and earls and dukes are other people that live in the kingdom. He didn't want to talk to them. He wants to go straight to the king. This was a king's castle, all right. It had tall towers and a big drawgate to keep out the people the king didn't want to see. But when the drawgate was drawn closed, it kept Harold out too. So how's he going to get in there? Is he going to climb it? I don't know. Harold shouted for the king to come down and let him in, but the gate didn't open. He walked along the edge of the Enchanted Garden beside the smooth wall of the castle until he thought of his purple crayon. That's how he solves all of his problems. A person smaller than a very small mouse would be able to get in. Without even bending, he walked into a very small mouse hole. So that's how he's going to get in. He walked through the mouse hole into the castle. He invited the mouse in too, but the mouse preferred to stay outside. As he gazed around inside the big castle, Harold felt very tiny. Must be a really big castle. And a king might not pay much attention to anybody who was smaller than a mouse, so Harold used his purple crayon again. He made sure he was as tall as 4.5 steps of stairs, his usual height. Then he climbed up the stairs looking for the king. He went up and up and up until he got so tired he couldn't climb another step. Luckily, there were no more steps. He had reached the top. He still couldn't find the king, but he remembered kings sat on thrones. So look, he's drawing a throne. That's like a special fancy chair for a king. The king's throne looked very comfortable. Harold thought the king wouldn't mind if he rested a few minutes. He sat on the throne, wondering what it was like to be a king and wear a crown. There he is, chilling on the throne. He tried it with the king's crown. It was all right for a while, but the crown began to feel very heavy. There he is trying on that crown. So Harold put it on the king's head. As he thanked the king for the loan of the crown, he noticed the king looked sad, no doubt because of the garden. Oh. Because remember, what's with the garden? He came to ask the king about what? Why there are no flowers or grass or trees or anything. The king is sad about that. He asked the king if the trouble was due to a witch or a giant. The king couldn't say which. He looked sad and helpless. Evidently, the giant, or witch, if the king couldn't tell which it was invisible. But Harold told the king not to worry. Oh. So I think Harold's going to go in search of the giant or the witch. And it's invisible, so how is he going to find it? He set off to find the invisible witch or giant, brandishing his purple crayon, and accidentally it made a hole in the wall. The accident embarrassed Harold, but the hole was the handiest way out of the castle, and he climbed through it. When he looked down from the other side of the hole, he realized he had forgotten how high up he was. He needed something to climb down. Something to climb down on. Something as tall as a steeple. That's like the pointy part of the roof on a house. To fill the hole in the castle, Harold put a handsome and useful clock in it. He was surprised to see how late it was. He slid down the steeple to find the invisible witch or giant right away. It wasn't a steeple. It was a pointed hat. It was a giant witch. Oh no. Look, he's hanging onto her hair. That witch is going to be mad. The purple crayon made it plain. It was an invisible giant witch. Well, no wonder nothing grew in the Enchanted Garden. How could anything grow, Harold said to himself, with a giant witch tramping around with its big feet? And I noticed she has a lot of fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That witch has 6 fingers? That's creepy. Now that he saw what the trouble was, all Harold had to do was drive the witch out of the Enchanted Garden. Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes, Harold knew, will drive anybody out of a garden. So there are the little mosquitoes. And what do mosquitoes do that people don't like? They bite you, right? And then it makes bumps on your skin that itch, 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 itch. Oh. So he thought, hey, if I make a lot of mosquitoes, that witch will say, oh, I'm out of here. The mosquitoes drove out the witch. They were also driving Harold out of the garden. He had to make smoke to get rid of the mosquitoes. wonder if that's going to work. He had once heard somebody say that when there's smoke, there must be fire. To put out the fire, he first thought of fire engines, but he decided to make it rain. Rain was easier. The rain soaked everything, Harold too, but he said, it's good for the flowers. He was right. Soon there were flowers. Beautiful flowers popped up all over the Enchanted Garden, more than Harold was able to count, all in gorgeous bloom. Harold thought how delighted and happy the king would be when he looked out from the castle in the morning. And then the king wouldn't be sad anymore. In bloom means when all of the petals are showing. And then, amazingly, the last flower turned out to be not a flower at all, but a lovely fairy. She held out her magic wand as fairies always do when they're giving somebody wishes that will come true. She's going to give Harold a wish. I wonder what he's going to wish for. Harold couldn't think of a thing to wish for, but to be polite, he took one wish and told the fairy he'd use it later. Besides, Harold thought, as he started on his long walk home, a wish might come in handy sometime. So that was kind of smart. He decided to save his wish. What would you wish for? I'd wish for this coronavirus to be over, right? So we could go back to school. And maybe a giant Reese cup. After all the excitement, he suddenly felt tired, and he stopped to rest for a while. He sat on a small rug because the ground was still somewhat damp from the rain. Damp means it's wet. And he wished the rug was a flying carpet. All at once, Harold felt it rise in the air. It flew fast and high. Whoa! Just like Aladdin and Jasmine, right? But when it went so fast it left the moon behind, Harold realized he didn't know how to stop the carpet or even slow it down. He'd wished he'd taken 2 wishes from the fairy so he could wish the flying carpet would land. Uh-oh, he's in trouble now. He doesn't know how to make it stop. But he did have his purple crayon. He landed the flying carpet in his living room, right behind the high-backed chair his mother sat in knitting. Oh, he figured it out with that handy purple crayon. And there's the chair, and see the yarn coming down? His mom might be knitting a sweater or a scarf. And he asked her to read him a story before he went back to bed. The end. I'll have to read more of those stories while we're at home, because I love Harold and the Purple Crayon. Have a great day. Bye.